Yo, what is going on, guys? And today I'm going to be making the highest possible frequency in FL Studio. Now, I'm going to add a plugin called Serum. Amazing. Now, I'm going to create a default sine wave, and we're going to just go into the wavetable and just keep clicking here. And I'll go into why we have to do this later on. But now we have a perfect sine wave, and you get one single pure frequency. So how do we make the highest possible frequency? Well, our first bet is to just scroll all the way up to the piano roll and just click here. And oh my god, we are already very, very high right here. B10. How do we actually measure this frequency? Well, I actually have a plugin called TDR Prism. You can see we're getting about 12,000 hertz. So one thing to note, let's say you have a note, C8, right? C8, why do I keep closing it? I swear to God. We're getting a frequency of about 2.1 kilohertz. Now, if we go up an octave to C9, you can see it sort of sounds like the same note. It sounds the same note even though they're two different notes. That is because this note right here is double the frequency of this note. So if we go here, you can see we're getting a frequency of about 260.8 hertz. Now, if we plug that into the calculator, 260.8 times 2 gives us 521. So if we go here, did I close it again? Oh my god. 521. So we can see that every time we go up an octave, it's doubling the frequency. So 521, that's about 1,000 hertz. 2 kilohertz, 4.2 kilohertz, 8.4 kilohertz. C11 should be around 16 kilohertz. So here we have the fine tune. If we just play a normal note, and then we sort of change the fine tuning a little bit, you can sort of hear fine tuning is, well, the exact fine tuning between each semitone. And by the way, semitones is essentially just any key on the piano. So for example, if I play this, it's the same sound as. So this means with 100 cents plus 100 cents in our fine tuning, if we play this note, B10, we're actually playing C11. So we're playing one note above this, the note that you can't see. We're playing C11 right here. And we all know that C11 is 16,800 hertz. Now if we actually go to Tokyo Dawn Records Prism right here, you can see it's saying about 13,000 hertz. And that's not exactly accurate because we've just proved C11 has to be 16,000. But you can see that's not the case, right? It's sort of capping out. And so anywhere past sort of like 10,000, this plugin gets really inaccurate. Let's make this even higher. Now we have something called semitones. And this you can drag all the way up to 12. That's just the same as raising it up an octave. 33,600 hertz right here. However, we can do even better. You see this knob right here, this is the octave. We can drag this all the way up to 4. And so this multiplies the frequency by 5. Not 4, 5. Because when we're at 0 octaves, that's the same frequency as we started with. If we plus 1 octave, that's doubling the frequency, multiplying by 2. And then plus 2 octaves is multiplying by 3, plus 3 is 4, and plus 4 is 5. So we're multiplying this frequency by 5. So we can go here, multiply by 5. And this, if we go up here, that is 168,000 hertz. I don't know why you can still hear it, or how you could still hear it, but you can still hear it. However, we're still not done. Let me introduce to you master tuning. As you can see, we have a very low frequency right here. And if we actually go to the matrix, activate this, this changes the frequency by a lot. Master tuning crazily modifies the frequency, and you can get some really high pitches with this. Now, master tuning is actually an invisible knob. You can't see it anywhere else. The only way for you to access it is through this thing called the matrix, which shows every single knob or dial that exists or doesn't really exist, and every single LFO and envelope and macro that you've ever assigned to. But how much does this actually change the frequency? We need a way to measure it. So a way to do that, let's just turn this off. So we're getting about 65 hertz, 2.7 kilohertz, 2,700. And all we need to do is just divide it. We get around 41.2. So 41.2, let's actually just note that down, and we might as well round it correctly, making that 41.3. So with the previous frequency that we have, 168,000, we're going to multiply that by 41.3, and we get 6.9 million, bro. You're listening to 6.9 million hertz right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 6.9 million. You can still hear it miraculously. And what I think the reason is because the headphones that you're listening to, or the speakers that you're listening to this out of, isn't actually playing 168,000. You wouldn't hear that frequency, but it is playing like a frequency just below it. So to illustrate what I mean, for example, right, this is the graph, right? You have 10, etc., 100. This is logarithmic, exponentially, right? This is the frequency we're playing at, like 168,000, right? And then this is like, let's say 20,000. We can hear this. That actually does not make sense because 100 is after 20,000, but who cares, right? So it's sort of like the curve that you see in the black body radiation temperature. It's sort of like that. So this is the main frequency, right? Bats could probably hear a very loud pitch, and we're barely hearing the brink of this frequency. It's similar to how like really hot stars look blue, but they're not actually blue. The blue that we're seeing is just a tiny bit of, all of the X-rays, gamma rays, mega rays, whatever that they're emitting. We bumped up the fine tuning, we bumped up the semitones, we bumped up the octaves, and we applied this master tuning effect. However, there is one final thing. So let me just introduce you to this. So if we place a C5 note right here, it's just a regular sine wave, right? However, if we go into the wave table, we have just this regular wave. But watch what happens when I click here. You see, it sounds like we're playing C5 and C6 at the same time, right? So if we just get rid of this, it's the same as if we were to do this. So why is that? Well, this is called the harmonic series. An easy way to demonstrate this is just by going here and going into leads and just picking a random instrument, Whether it be this instrument, or this instrument, or this instrument, or this instrument, or this instrument. They all sound completely different. They're all vastly different instruments. However, they all have that fundamental frequency for some reason. They all, they all sound different, but they all sound like C5, right? So why is that? Well, if we go back to our init preset and go back here, essentially, any pitched instrument has a fundamental frequency, as well as a bunch of overtones that either vibrate twice as fast, 3 times as fast, 4 times as fast, 5 times as fast, and this goes on forever. If I, in fact, pick just a random wavetable like this, you can see we have a fundamental frequency right here of 264 hertz, but we have another frequency that's twice as fast, about 527 hertz. You can do the math. 2 is 528, that's about 500, right? 700, which is 3 times as fast, 1000, 4 times as fast, 1300, and this goes on forever. Any pitched instrument has overtones, or the harmonic series, unless we did what I did at the beginning, which is take this sine wave and just keep clicking here. And just click, 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 until all we get is a fundamental frequency. You can see here, there are barely any other overtones, right? It's just this fundamental frequency, and I did that specifically for a reason. However, now let's introduce some overtones. It might sound weird, but if you actually start playing a melody, it all comes together for some reason. Now, I think you already know where I'm going with this one, right? Why click this one when you can click this one all the way here? Catch my drift? You can see you get, this is very interesting. You get this frequency, but you also have, it's vibrating also like this, right? But anyways, enough distractions. Let's put this all the way here. And already that is a crazy, crazy frequency. And so let's bump everything back up again. Take envelope 1, master tune, bump that up, bump up the semi, fine tuning, octaves, and I think that's it, right? And then put it up here, right? And so that is essentially the frequency that we just had, 6,938,000 times 48, because this has been 48, right? So let's multiply this by 48, and we get 333 million hertz. Let's paste that in here. So this is the highest possible frequency in Serum. Or is it? Because one detail that I've left out is this scrolling thing. I know, that's crazy. And this goes on. Oh, I can show you. This, before we just, all we did was click that, right? This goes on forever and ever and ever. This goes on out so far, all the way to bin 512. So let's just keep clicking that until everything else disappears. And you can see there's pretty much nothing here. If we go back, there's some things here. We could just solve it by just keep clicking. And this wave is actually so condensed. It is oscillating back and forth 512 times just in this tiny box. And it's so fast that I think the bottom half of this wave literally just stopped rendering. And even if I play the lowest note, nothing happens. So if we go back here, right, to our original 6.9 million hertz, we're not actually multiplying this by 48. We're multiplying this number by 512. 512. And finally, we get a frequency of 3,552,460,800 hertz. That is this note right here. We are producing, this note is producing a sound of 3 billion hertz. This is the highest possible frequency in FL Studio, or at least with the plugin Serum.